Hi everyone, it's Danielle Dunlap here for Paper Issues, and I'm here with a new episode for Mixed Media Monday. Today's Mixed Media Monday episode is all gonna be about layering stamps. The brand Altenew is a great example of beautiful layering stamps. Last week we got the Regal Beauty stamp set in the shop at Paper Issues. You can find it at paperissues.com. And I'm going to show you how to use it if you're new to this type of stamping or new to stamping in general. So let's get started. So this is how it comes in. And the packaging is gonna show you a guide, a layering guide. There's usually lots of examples of cards in here as well. So if you need more ideas for a card design, you can get inspiration here. I always love to look at that. And then there's also this matching die set in the shop. So you can stamp these on the background of your card, but you can also cut them out with the dies and build a scene with some elevated areas with foam tape, which I'm going to show you later on. But let's get started with the stamping. I have a Misty stamping tool. There's lots of stamping tools out there. Currently we have the We Are Memory Keepers stamping press at Paper Issues. They all kind of work the same. And there's also people who use a normal stamping block. I feel more confident using a stamping tool because you can make a mistake and easily fix it. So I have a piece of cardstock in my Misty stamping tool. And now let's have a look at the stamps. Maybe I should take my magnets out so it's a little easier to see. As you can see here, there's a line surrounded on a group of stamps, just to make it easier for you to put your stamps together, because some of these can be a little bit complicated. It's harder to see which ones go together. But if you look at these 4 stamps, those are the ones here at the top. You have your solid stamp, then the next one, that will be this layer, and then we're gonna have this layer and this one. Then there's also 2 smaller ones in this group, which is going to give you that small detail in the middle of the flower. Now, if we look at the next group, which is this leaf, you see that line going around. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stamps in this layer, and you see those all out here. And then we have the next leaf, which has 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. And then we have another pretty flower. That one is not surrounded by a line, but it's out of all the other ones. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and where's 5? Oh, it's right over here. Sometimes you need to search a little bit for it. But it's right here, outside of all the other groups. And then there is an extra leaf here. It's just a 1 layer stamp. This one is as well, and this one is 2. So you can just use those randomly to build your bouquet. Now there's also a sentiment just for you, and you are beautiful just the way you are. So those are some pretty sentiments you could use on your card. Now, let's get started. I'm gonna show you all of these, and we're gonna keep the guide close by so we can look for reference when we need it. Take the whole cover off. Now, first there's one quick trick I want to show you. If you want to do a whole bunch of a whole bunch of the same flowers or the same leaves, we're going to start with that one. And I have my Pinkfresh Studio inks. I think I'm gonna follow the guide and do some mint. Well, it's not really mint. It's like Ocean Breeze, Aquamarine, Mermaid Cove, and Tidal Pond. Now, if you look at the, so these Pinkfresh Studio inks come in sets of 4, so you do not have to do the hard work of trying to mix and match your inks for the layers. So for the blues, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 for the big layers, which is going to work perfectly with these. And then we're going to use 2 different colors for the detail on the inside. Okay. So we're starting with the lightest one. Now, because this is a new stamp set, people are often mentioning, oh, I forgot to put my magnets in. People are often mentioning that the stamps are not giving a clear print. And it especially happens with the ones with big solid areas. And it really helps if you prepare your stamp for stamping. What I find most helpful, some people just do it with their hand, but I like an eraser. And you just need to roughen up the surface. Just make sure you go over each part. Okay. There's just a little bit of the gummy stuff coming off. You just wipe that off. And I'm not sure if it's clear in the video, but it looks like the stamp is not as clear anymore. It's a little roughened up. And that's the way you want it to look. Now we're going to ink it up. And if you feel like it's still not, your stamp is still not prepped enough, it also helps if you do ink it up, stamp it, clean your stamp, and repeat that a couple times. The more your stamp is used, the better it actually becomes. So let's see how we're doing with this one. That is looking pretty good already. If you want to make sure you have good pressure all over, it really helps to have just a cloth where you can easily go over with. That helps for me, at least, to give even pressure. There we go. Oh, that is gorgeous. I use just a simple chamois to clean up my stamp. Ooh, the trick I wanted to show you before I forget. When you want to make more of them, you just keep your stamp in place, turn your paper, or you can have smaller pieces of paper ready and you just put them in the same position. And it helps if you place your paper in a corner, so you know for sure it's always in the same place. And then you just do it again. And now for the first layer, you might be like, well, does it do? What does it make for a difference? When we have the second one positioned, you will understand. So we'll go for a second print. There we go. Now we can take this one off, and we're going to grab our second layer. Now we need to line them up with the first one. So we're gonna see where it has those matching points. And if you need a little help with this, you can always go to your guide. So what I'm noticing here is that the second layer is covering a part that is not stamped in the first layer. Now, if you look at the final flower, that actually does make sense. You can see that little piece right here. It doesn't have the light blue color from the first print. So it makes sense that it's not covering, or not like going over the first print that you did. The same happens in these spots. So if you're kind of confused to line it up, just go look at your final flower, and there you can see if you're doing it correct. I'm gonna grab my second color, which is aquamarine. I'm going to wrap this stamp again. Going to ink it up. Oh, that's gorgeous. Okay, so here comes the trick. We leave our stamp in place. We just turn over the paper the way we had it when we started it. Now, your paper is in the same position, your stamp is in the same position. You're gonna ink it up. And you're going to stamp. And the advantage you have here is that you do not have to do the work again to precisely line it all up. See, you have another perfect print right there. Okay, on to the next one. The third layer. Which is this one. Okay, I'm just checking all around if it's in the right place. It could also help if you look from each side. You go to that side, and there you can also see if it's lined up correctly. Just put your head to the side and you can see where the outline of your next stamp, if that's matching the print you already have. Now, the further you go, the less surface you have to stamp. This is still one that I would like to prep. but it's mainly important that you do this with the first 1 or 2 layers. Now we go to Mermaid Cove. It's such a pretty color. Oh, I'm so excited. I often just like scream or squeal when I'm doing a new flower. And I get so excited. Look at the depth you get and the detail in there. Now we're gonna do the other one too. I love this. It's such a pretty flower. Now we go on to the 4th layer, which is this one. Oops. Let me see. With a later layer, it's sometimes harder to figure out where it goes. So make sure you have it pointed the same direction. Also, that's why it's really helpful when you start your first layer in the same direction as it is pictured here. It really makes it easier if you look at it from the same point of view as you see your layering guide right here. Okay, so this is going, I'm mainly looking at these 3 points that are gonna cover those leaves at the bottom. Especially when it's a new stamp to me. The first time it takes me a little more time to figure out how to layer them. But when you use the same sets more often, it's getting easier. Now there's another thing I would like you to know. I'm in an area that is very humid, which has a major effect on my stamping and on my inks. So what I usually do, because it takes a long time for my inks to dry, what I usually do is dry each layer in between. And because I can see that some of the colors are starting to run and blend more than they should do. When you're in a room with AC, it shouldn't be like this bad. The only problem right now is that just this morning, I blew up my heat gun. I do not know what happened to it, but it really got overheated and smoke was coming out. So I had to pluck it out and I do not dare to use it again. So that's why I'm just gonna continue. But if you're in an area where there's a lot of humidity, I highly recommend that you dry each layer in between before you move on to the next. It makes such a difference. So this is, oh, actually we have the smaller pieces still. And we're gonna grab a green for that, a real green. And I have fresh pear. And I will use olive for the darker one. And that's gonna go right here in the opening that we have left. I do not always use these little pieces actually for the middle. Sometimes I like it better to just leave it open. I could do this for this one too, because it's not looking weird or anything when you leave that white. But I just want to show you what it looks like once you have it stamped. And this one is going with olive. There you go. So that is one finished flower. I will stamp the rest of the images as well, but I'm gonna do it at a higher speed, so I'm not gonna keep you here too long. And I'll be back with you at the end of the video. Okay, so now I have stamped and die cut all my images. Um, so a little time has passed and you can actually start to see what I was talking about the humidity. Some details are disappearing. The ink is blending in with each other, different colors. It's not too big of a deal, but it kind of makes my point when you're dealing with a lot of humidity and you do not have AC like me. Use a heat gun and dry your layers in between. So we're gonna build a card right now. And this month we're having a sketch at Paper Issues, a sketch challenge. And I stamped this background for it already. And I'm gonna make a little composition. I will probably put the big one on some foam tape. Just gonna tuck some leaves in there. I always first like to move the flowers and leaves around a little bit until I'm happy with it. Okay, so I will glue the leaves and the smaller flower down. I'm gonna hold these and this is gonna go. When I'm happy with the composition, I don't want to move anything anymore, because just like making layouts, I can never get it exactly back the way I had it. I'm gonna put some foam tape on this one. Just a couple pieces will do, you don't need much. There we go. And finally, I want to add a sentiment that should go somewhere here according to the sketch. So I can go with "Just for you." Actually, this one fits too. I didn't think it would, but you're beautiful just the way you are. Let's go for that. I'm just gonna use a normal stamping block. And I'm gonna ink it up with VersaFine black ink that we carry at paperissues.com. Don't forget, when you're shopping, use code MMmedia for 20% off all day, every day. Just giving some good pressure. There you go. Now, a normal size card is 5.5 inches by 4 1/4. So this is a card base that I have. And I made this background a little bit smaller. So this one is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And I just really like to do that for some extra dimension. So I'm gonna put this on foam tape as well. So that will, the entire design will pop from the card. Now here's a little trick that I use to place this exactly in the middle. I only take off one strip of the backing of the foam tape. I'll leave the rest on. And I'll make sure I have my fingers on the sticky one. And with this side, I'm gonna position where it should go without the sticky one touching the background. Once you have your right position, whoops, not exactly yet. Once you have the right position, you stick that sticky one down, and you take the other backings off. I find this a lot easier than having all the foam tape sticking already. It's easier to make a little correction when needed. Okay, so here's a card based on the sketch that we currently have for the month of August. And I used the Regal Beauty Altenew Layering Stamp Set. Don't forget to click like, to comment, and to subscribe to Paper Issues YouTube channel. Next Monday we'll be back with another episode of Mixed Media Monday, and we hope to see you there. If you have any questions about layering stamps, stamping in general, or card making, leave it in the comments, and I will check the comments regularly to see if there's anything I need to answer. If you guys want to see more about stamping some specific items, let me know. I'm happy to do that for another episode of Mixed Media Monday. So go to paperissues.com for all your shopping. Use code MMmedia for 20% off all day, every day. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you for hanging out with me. Bye-bye.